What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode here on the Digital Tradeshow-Dental podcast. I am live in Vegas at the Dental and Medical Insurance Extravaganza. Christine Taxon has put on an awesome event and lots of relevant information. We've got great companies here, and I have the great opportunity to be spending time with them in the next couple of days, have them come on the podcast and share with you some of the great things they're doing. And with me here is Austin Leavitt from OMS Partners. Good morning, Austin.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. And I know you have a very interesting story in regards to Christine Taxon and your father and how you've all ended up here. So love to have you share it.
Yeah, we'll start with that. So Christine Taxon and I go back at least a decade. And so Find a Code happens to be my father's firm, not the company I'm here representing,
right,
just to make that piece clear. But about 10 years ago, she signed up for a trial account on my father's website. And back then, my job was to actually call on all the trial accounts and say, hey, welcome to the website. If you need anything, let us know. That's all that. Long story short, that relationship continued, and it's developed into something much more robust now. What it is now, I couldn't tell you because I've been out of that life for about 6 years now. But that's how we met, and we've seen each other at conferences ever since then. And because we're still working in the medical and dental space, and so she invited me to come out to this one. So I said, yeah, let's give it a try. We'll see how it turns out. And so far, the turnout's been pretty good. So we're pretty pleased with that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about yourself and your career and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So, and again, it goes back to the Find a Code piece just a little bit. So to give even more history, my grandfather started a company called ChiroCode, and it was a resource for billing and coding specifically for chiropractors. My father's company built a very good resource for general physicians, but a lot of physicians didn't like to use a chiropractic website just for branding and access purposes, so they started a separate company called Find a Code. So basically, growing up from the age of about 12 to about 18, all I did was mowed a lot of lawns, for one, and baled a lot of hay, but also spent a lot of time just doing back office support for these different medical, dental coding softwares. So then what ended up happening is I went to BYU for a little bit and then transferred over to Utah Valley University and got 2 undergraduates in business and finance with a minor in economics. Well, as a lot of you probably know, a bachelor's degree in business isn't going to get you very far. Right. So after I finished the undergraduate work, I went to Texas Tech University, Reckham, where I got a master's degree in personal financial planning with a master's minor in charitable planning.
Okay.
So I did that, and then I did an internship at a company called the Financial Advisory Group. They're an RIA, Registered Investment Advisory firm out of Houston.
Okay.
And did the internship there. They liked me, and they said, you know what, you've done great work, but given your background in all this medical and dental space, we actually have a sister company called OMS Partners. We'd really like you to work in there and kind of work in between the two companies for a lot of these clients. So that actually helps set the stage a little bit for the company and kind of what my job is. OMS Partners is a comprehensive oral surgery practice management group. Okay. We do everything from credentialing, billing and collections, acquisitions, startups, all the back office things, including payroll, accounts payable, tax filing, bookkeeping, you name it. So the sister company, the Financial Advisory Group, it's a fee-only fiduciary RIA firm. They manage about $900 million in discretionary assets. And so part of what my job involves is taking care of the network of oral surgeons, as well as coordinating with the Financial Advisory Group in regards to these people's personal financial wealth. And so, and one thing I forgot to add is shortly after I finished the master's degree, I got my CFP credentials, the Certified Financial Planner, which is a fairly difficult one. Working on another 2 licenses right now, but when you work 12 to 16 hours a day, there's only so much time at the end. Right. But I've been on the soapbox for a little bit. What questions can I answer for you?
No, I think that's great, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because certainly there is a lot of individual practices out there that are looking for resources like what OMS is, right? Where they're looking to handle a lot of that back office stuff, I guess you could call. And there's a lot of important stuff, but so that they can focus on the clinical piece. So I think that's really, really exciting.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this goes to a different piece in terms of, the changes that we're seeing within the specialty dental market, not just with oral surgery, but with orthodontics, general dentistry, obviously we've seen over the last decade. but there is a commoditization of services in terms of what's actually being offered by these practices, which squeezes the profit and loss statements for the people who are actually practicing. On top of that, the compliance world, regardless of who's in office,
Right.
is always going to expand and get worse.
Right.
So, back in the 1980s, there was a very rational argument to why you would keep all of those operations in-house. Why? Because you didn't have to worry as much in regards to, OSHA, HIPAA, all these other AAAHC, all these other government and self-regulatory organizations that are more or less necessary now to run a practice.
Right.
And so that's actually kind of how OMSB started. The chairman, Dr. James Baker, he still practices in Oklahoma, and a bunch of his oral surgery buddies got together because there was some coding changes that came about in the 90s to where they decided that rather than getting an expert in every single office, because that costs a lot, why don't we just kind of get one or two experts, and then we have all the billers that work under them. We all just kind of cost share it. We'll all just
Right.
kind of pay for it.
Yeah.
So then they did that, and then another practice piled on, and another practice piled on, and a decade later, it's a full-fledged business.
Yeah.
And so they've been in existence for 20, 25 years, somewhere around there. I came on about 4 years ago to help specifically with the practice acquisitions and startups, and of course, coordinating with the financial advisory group
Sure.
in regards to a lot of the private wealth management that we take care for the doctors.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
And walk me through, the first maybe couple conversations that you have with a lot of these newer practices that you work with, right? I mean, it's a big decision for them to go from what
certainly.
they've done and things like that. So share some of your experience with that, what that's been like.
Sure, and so I think that what it really gets into is what kind of client it is. So there's a couple of different groups, I guess we put in. Obviously, everyone's individual, and you have to come up with a custom plan for everyone, but there's a couple different general categories you could put them in, and those are going to be operating practices, somebody that's trying to sell their practice, somebody in their 50s or so, and residents that are just coming out. So a lot of what I do is I actually go to about a dozen oral surgery residency programs a year and actually lecture to them on how to buy, start, and manage an oral surgery practice. And what it really comes down to is, for the people who have been out further, they've been put through the ring of fire, if you will, to where they actually have exposure to a lot of these business concepts, to where you can have those conversations with them easier. With the fresh new residents, however,
Yeah, it's brand new.
they couldn't tell you what the difference between a P&L item is versus a balance sheet item.
Sure.
They have been trained to do surgery, and they're really, really good at it.
Yep.
But they have no, even the basic idea of business, accounting, finance, law, entity creation. They just have no idea.
Sure.
Now, for the financial geeks like me, that's actually quite a lot of fun. I enjoy doing that piece. Surgery, couldn't do it to save my life. I'd probably faint. Not my area.
Right.
So that's what I generally see with the residents coming out, is they just need somebody to say, do X, Y, and Z. When something comes up, call me, we'll figure it out. For some of the people who are trying to transition out of their practice, it's, okay, this is the first time you've ever sold your practice. What should you expect about what is it worth? How can I actually go about doing it? What tax code sections do I use? As you know, Section 721, 754. How are they coming on? How much equity or member interest are they buying? What are the rights and responsibilities associated within the operating agreement? How do we do this the right way? Because, if you try to legal zoom this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
you're going to get in a lot of trouble. And a good example I like to use is, if you had to have your child get surgery, would you want the oral surgeon who's, at the top of his game in his mid-50s or something, who's just a rock star?
Sure.
Or would you want the hygienist who hasn't even gone to dental school yet?
Right.
And if you're going to do a complex surgery, you need to have somebody that's actually done it a few times.
Sure.
And so all I would say is, if you've bought and sold practices many times on your own, great. You can probably handle it. If you've never done it, the first time you're going to screw something up if you don't know what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and talk about when you let's talk about the other side, which is those that are getting ready. They've been in practice for many, many years, and they're getting ready, like you said, to make their decision of retiring and or moving out. I mean, are you working with a percentage of those as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I'd say it's about half and half. About half the people are my own clients who have been legacy clients for a long time and are actually looking for younger people to come in. And for them, it's really just kind of a, for lack of a better term, coming to Jesus moment about what their retirement's going to look like. And the sad story I have to give is, let's take out a measuring tape, pull it out, and you're age 65 now. How much is left before 90? Okay, look before, look after. you need to start enjoying some of this piggy bank that you've put away. And for a lot of these guys, they just love what they do. That's why they originally went into oral surgery. And so beyond the monetary aspects for them, it's just the lifestyle change of realizing that, hey, I'm now entering, the later portions of my life. And dealing with the emotion and just kind of the mental energy that's involved with that, I think is actually more trying than the financial pieces themselves.
Yeah, I believe so. And I'm sure once you build that relationship with them, it's like any financial relationship, right? I mean, you try to maintain that and have that level of respect and trust. But I'm sure that once you build that trust with them, they're going to have normal conversations with you just about their family and their kids and their children and all that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these guys, we'll meet with at least quarterly, and a lot of times we'll sit down, we'll talk about their finances, and afterward, we might go out and just have a drink and just catch up, because a lot of these people are my true friends.
Right.
And, it actually brings up another point. I have clients who are on the OMSP side, and I have clients that are just on the financial advisory group side. And part of what it means to have the CFP, it means the CFP behind my name, it means that I'm a fiduciary in all cases. And so, I actually have one guy who I'm helping out in the Southeast right now. And we're looking at a couple different practices. I got a couple of the ones on OMSP that are for sale. And we kind of looked at some different ones. But as a fiduciary, I had to say, there's actually this other partnership. We don't manage it, and so we're not going to make any money with this. But after looking at the finances and the facts and circumstances of the situation, you really ought to go to this route. And he really appreciated me being that honest.
Yeah.
And so I think once you can get to that level of honesty and just provide true analysis and advice, that's a very comforting thing for me.
Yeah.
One other thing that actually goes along with this is that on the financial advisory group side, they, being a fee-only fiduciary, they do not sell any insurance products, annuities. I don't know if you've seen the Ken Fisher commercials, but similar to that kind of thing. Those who get to this level of financial advice, we really do not like to be beholden to any of these larger institutions, the Fidelities, the insurance, that sort of stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely a time and a place for the utilization of those financial products, but it's nice to be in a position where my salary and my compensation is not dictated by how much I sell. Which is a very comfortable place for me to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is great stuff, and I really appreciate it, because I said, again, I think it's those things that a lot of times people don't always think about, right? I mean, especially the ones that are getting ready to retire, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm sure you're a huge resource for them. So talk a little bit about this meeting, and this is obviously the first annual, and you've known Christine for a long time.
Correct.
So what are you looking forward to at this meeting in regards to talking to some of the people that are here?
Well, it'll be interesting, and I don't quite know what I'm getting into yet, but I've known Christine a long time, so this was more or less me just trusting her and the organization and the stuff that she brings to the table. And so what I'd like to get out of it is if I can have a few people that end up needing our services, whether it's on the comprehensive practice management side in terms of medical and dental billing and coding, credentialing, etc., or if there happens to be a doctor or two who needs some wealth management services, to me, in terms of the ROI of coming out, that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I'm cautiously optimistic it'll happen. I mean, we're still just in the first 2 hours of the event, so we'll have to see how the next 2 days go. But that's what I'd like to get out of it. And then beyond that, it seems like there's a couple of really good lecturers here, and so I may sneak into the back for one or two to just kind of better my own understanding of these things. I'm really good on more of the financial side of these practices, and since I left my father's company a few years ago, my skill set in regards to billing and coding has gotten a little bit weak, so it probably wouldn't hurt to get in there.
Well, there's some amazing speakers here, really. And all talking about all kinds of different things, so I'm sure you'll love that. How about some fun questions?
Yeah, go for
it. Good?
Yeah.
So, favorite day of the week?
Oof. Oddly enough, I really like Thursdays.
Okay.
The reason being is I just kind of hit my stride.
Okay.
Mondays, nobody likes Mondays.
Right.
But by the time you get to Thursday, I'm all about momentum. As long as I can start working and I keep working, I can go for as long as I need to. Saturdays and Sundays come, though, I'm couch logged. Sure. I mean, I do not move. But Thursdays, definitely good. Thursdays.
Right. How about a favorite sandwich?
A favorite sandwich? I love not necessarily a club sandwich, but like a club with extra meat. Just like give me every single piece of meat that's back there in the kitchen and put it on a sandwich, and I'm all about it.
Awesome. Austin, this has been great. thank you so much for your time.
No, yeah, I
really
appreciate
it. And good luck the rest of the event and doing great stuff for dentistry. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a great week.
You too.